live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, it is Sleepless with Steve. We are live and in living color on YouTube on this Wednesday evening, last day of August, coast to coast. We are live, and we have got stuff to talk about today. It's going to be a little bit of a lighter show, I foresee, than normal because the box office and the movie theaters aren't doing us any favors and giving us many new releases to talk about. That's for damn sure. And also, one of the biggest bombs of the year came out this year in 3,000 Years of Longing. That movie is going to lose an astronomical amount of money. $60 million budget, probably close to $100 million for P&D, print and digital advertising. So, and it made all of $2 million this weekend. So George Miller, the studio is going to be begging George Miller for another Mad Max here pretty soon with the way this movie's going. I'm seeing it tomorrow, and I fully expect to be the only person in the theater. But we've got stuff to talk about today that I am very excited about because we are going to be talking about the dour state of the American box office, which is probably as bad as it's been since COVID. And the funny thing is the conditions aren't nearly as bad as they were 2 years ago when we were seeing this record low. I don't want to jump into the topic, obviously. Now we'll save it for the end. But just to give, if you haven't looked at the numbers, the movie came in number one this week was The Invitation, which is a new horror movie, an interchangeable horror movie, made $6.8 million. That was good enough to be number one this weekend. So that's where we are at. That is where we are at for the state of movie theaters. We'll touch on that in a bit. We're also reviewing the new Idris Elba thriller, Beast, because there ain't much else to review these days. So we're reviewing this movie, Beast. Last things last, and then I'll turn it over to you guys because I want to hear how you guys are doing. First things first, too. It's August 31st, okay? I know August 31st has existed for many years, but why does it feel like a fake date? It doesn't look right, does it? Am I the only one? Like August 31st sounds made up. Like I almost feel like there's a Mandela effect going on. I don't remember August 31st being a
I have a whiteboard calendar in my room, and when it came time to do the month of August, I wrote down today as September 1st, and then like lo and behold, I look at my phone calendar, I'm like, that shit never existed until this very minute. Like, no, this thing wasn't real.
It's a Berenstein Bears thing. It's a Berenstein Bears thing over here. I was talking about on my radio show today. I said, and I know the phrase 30 days has September, April, June, and November. That's how I remember which months have 30 days and which months have 31. I've learned that adage when I was like 6, and it's never left me. But I'm like, it doesn't feel right, August 31st. I don't know. This is the only thing I can compare it to is like December 26th to December 30th when you really don't know what to do with yourself, and you're just waiting for the new year to start. Anyway, that went way too long. I've been in my head today, clearly. I live alone. Dom, how are you?
Doing well. Been battling various forces, both financial and biological. But we have prevailed on the other end of this horizon, and we are looking better and on to the chaos that is working out a part on Labor Day weekend, as Joe may know. But regardless, it is we're getting through it. August and September go by real fast. Sometimes, in some ways, even faster than June, July for me, historically. So we will see.
Glad you're feeling good. Chelsea feeling good too?
Yes, she's feeling much better these days.
Good to hear. Good to hear on that. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I just got back from a trip in Miami. That's where I was at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I came home from Monday overnight, right into the morning. So I had a very eventful 72 hours, man. I had a good time out there. It was a nice little getaway. I didn't see Beast out there, but I did see people who looked like they were being chased by lions out there the way they were running around and trying to party on South Beach. But yeah, man, I had a good time.
You took your talents to South Beach, did you not?
Yes.
I went to the far less glamorous but still very fun Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin over the weekend. Took a 4-day weekend. We went to Minneapolis, had a lot of fun up there. Still kind of recovering, and I'm going back home this weekend as well. So it's been 3 consecutive weekends of traveling for me to one place or another. This will be the 3rd consecutive week. I'm looking forward to being home for the long weekend, but I'm looking forward to next weekend even more because I'm coming home Friday night and I do not plan to leave the house until Monday morning for work, because that way I can't spend any more money than I've spent in the last 3 weekends.
Staycation, baby.
Yes, indeed. That's exactly what it is. To quote the late great rapper, sucks I have to say it like that, the late great rapper Young Dolph, they like the way I maneuver. And with that we seg to Beast. Now I'm going to preface by saying I like this movie, but I wasn't super excited to review it like on the show. I wish we had something more substantive to talk about, and maybe Dominic will, read some political allegory into it, which I would welcome, as I always would. Maybe Dominic will present some sort of theory that I did not consider before. But I wasn't looking forward to reviewing this on the show because I do not have a ton to say. Even with Bodies. I thought we did a really good review, and we had quite a lot to say about this. And even with Fall, which is similar to Beast in a way. It's a genre movie. It's I think Fall's better. A really well-made genre movie in kind of what is usually a barren theatrical time of August. Not like this, but historically, yes. I have a hard time kind of coming up with a ton to say about this. I do have some things to note here. But Beast is the new Idris Elba starring vehicle. It's kind of weird, too. I'm just going to say general thoughts on this. 2 quick points, both kind of irrelevant. Isn't it weird? I feel like Idris Elba is too established to be doing a movie like this. This is kind of a movie. He doesn't give a bad performance, and it's not a bad movie. But it's the kind of thing you're doing when you're trying to become it, like you're on your way to becoming an A-lister. You got to take some of these studio spec scripts or what have you in order to kind of get yourself out there and prove that you can lead a movie, lead a very streamlined project. It feels like Idris Elba, who, has been in talks to be the next Bond since Christ lost his sandals. It feels like he's a bit too established to be doing something like this. And I'll seg to Dom after my second point. The other point of interest, too, is that I think this is the unofficial conclusion of the Idris Elba Cat trilogy, because he voiced Shere Khan in the 2016 remake of The Jungle Book. He followed it with his performance in Cats, and I'm not going to talk any more about that thing. And now he stars in Beast, where he's being chased by a lion.
You put some spec on McCavity.
I just kind of find it funny. I kind of find it funny, though, that this is I called it in my review at stevepulaski.com, the unofficial conclusion of the Idris Elba Cat trilogy. With those 2 irrelevant points, maybe, Dom, you want to piggyback off my former point, or general thoughts on the new Balthazar Kormacor, great name, his new film Beast.
Like you said, after watching Fall, I thought, wow, you can make a really straightforward movie. But after watching Beast, I thought, I think there's such a thing as too straightforward. Not necessarily. There's a lot of surrounding issues with that as well. I don't disagree, Steve, with what you said about that this is the kind of movie for a type of up-and-comer. But honestly, it can go either way, or multiple different ways, because this could be a film, this could be a passion project. This could be a film that is elevated by, a good actor or even a good cast. It can be a technical spectacle, at least. Didn't even mean to make it sound cool there, but but it really doesn't accomplish any of those things, and it doesn't even really accomplish what Fall did, which is exploit its, main conceit to maximum extent, or at least in a way that's particularly engaging. This movie is neither good nor bad. It's just kind of there, which for some people is the most offensive you can be. Me, I don't really quite fall into. I understand that logic. I understand that doctrine, and I can be with that sometimes. But you can do some great harm if you make a really bad movie. So at the least, this is just kind of giving everyone's paycheck, and I think comparing it to Fall is actually a really we're going to be doing. I feel like we're going to be doing that a lot. I was totally prepared to do that, and for good reason, because there are some very interesting uh, contrasts here between the two. But overall, you could really summarize it by just okay. I just, eh, you know, and I'll tease there. Joe, did you want to take that further?
You know, there was one time when I was going to community college. I was sitting around our lounge that is like by the cafeteria, and we were talking about Pixar movies. And somebody brought up Cars 2. And like we all were like, "Oh yeah, Cars 2 kind of sucks and everything." And this one kid was just like, "Cars 2 is not that bad. Like it's a movie. I watched it, and we were just like, wow, what a great compliment you just gave to that movie." I hate to say it, that's how kind of how I felt about this movie too. And it's not that again. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's really good either. Dom hit it right on the head. It's just kind of there. It is a movie I will forget by the end of the year, and honestly, sometimes that is worse than being bad, because at least bad, I remember you. I have something to go off. I'll at least be rooting for anybody that was involved in that project to do something better. Something I'm gonna forget. I'm not gonna remember who the hell was in that movie or whatnot. I probably will forget that. As much as I love Idris Elba, I'll probably forget he even was in this movie. Yeah, man. I mean, like this movie, it's so weird that we literally got Fall 2 reviews ago, which was sort of the same thing. Like, it's these people are stuck in going up against some type of element. Fall, it was they were stuck up on a tower, and with Beast, it's they're stuck in this village area, being chased by a lion, as well as other threats too. But it's just like, it's so weird how Fall, with about a similar runtime, did way more and had a crazier third act than this movie did. That made me go, oh my god, I'm more invested in a movie about 2 women stuck on a tower than one of my favorite actors fighting a lion hand-to-hand combat. Yeah, this is a very weird case. I didn't go into this I wasn't going into this expecting the next big action movie. I kind of looked at this as, yeah, this is gonna be the August dumping ground lead off. This is what they're teeing off with. Let's see what happens. And I was just kind of like, I mean, it's definitely that, but god damn, they could have at least done something with it.
I can sense that I'm gonna be give the highest praise to Beast of the 3 of us. Not by much, but higher than what you guys sound like. Quick point too, Joe, on your Pixar discussion with your friend. I watched a Pixar movie, I guess a Pixar collaboration this weekend. I rewatched it with my buddy. I was at my buddy's house before we took our vacation. We had the urge because we saw the Lightyear movie. We went back and watched the Buzz Lightyear.
TV
I don't
show?
even know what the hell it's called. What is it? The Adventure Begins, the movie, the 70-minute movie they made. I don't even remember what the hell it's called. The Adventures of Star Command or something. It was the movie that sets up the show. It was the pilot movie, the 70-minute movie. And that is a movie I would summarize as, it's a movie and I watched it. That is about where I would summarize that. That was not a thrilling experience by any means. Although I will say it might be the superior Lightyear movie, which just goes to show you how much I didn't care for the new one. But at least this one was kind of fun. But anyway, though, this is an interesting case, though, because what's funny is Fall is going to be the inevitable point of comparison here, because it's another simple, streamlined premise, largely one setting. Although this movie kind of sags, there's a long sequence of this movie, a long stretch that takes place in a car, in a Range Rover type vehicle. I'm terrible with cars; I don't know the name of it, but a large part of the movie is the characters trapped in this vehicle being hunted by this lion. And here's the thing with Fall, though. You know what the hilarious part is? And I did a double take when I wrote the review of Beast a couple of weeks ago. Fall cost $3 million. That was the budget for the whole thing. Beast was $36 million. I was kind of surprised by that. And I know Idris Elba's probably 10 million. I don't know. I'm terrible at guessing what actors make. It might even be more than that. I don't know. But I was kind of surprised that this movie had as lofty of a budget as it did, because outside of Idris Elba, nobody's a real name in here. You have Ayanna Haley from Licorice Pizza, she's in it. You have Leah Sava Jeffrey, she was in the movie Rel. There's there, and then Charlton Copley, who is he was in District 9, but he's kind of more. I think he's kind of also remembered as the voice of Chappie, if you remember that.
Yeah.
He's Neil Blomkamp's muse.
Yes, yes, indeed. So there's not a huge cast in this. The movie immediately makes you think of like a sci-fi original movie. But the good thing about this, and this is where I will defend it, is that with Idris Elba at the helm of this, shouldering a lion's weight of the movie, I saw that, Dom. It's kind of the Allstate principle. You're kind of in good hands if I can make two bad jokes in a row. Idris Elba is a great actor, and he at least affords this movie an emotional dimension that I think would have otherwise been lost in lesser hands. I don't think it's a very deep emotional anchor, but it's an emotional anchor nonetheless, and you see it in several moments when you can see the fear in his eyes and you can see in his mannerisms that all he wants to do is protect his daughters.
Yeah.
And it's that I think that is the glue, that's the adhesive that keeps this thing together.
And more importantly, contrasting it with the other actors. Particularly the daughters.
The daughters, yeah.
Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and shit on two, kid or teenager, young adult actors. I'm not. It's not their fault. It's honestly, if you know my principle, it's that if an actor does bad, a lot of the times, way more often than you think, it's the director's fault, casting's fault, maybe a technical problem, maybe it's the editing. It's rarely ever truly like you are a bad actor. But yeah. Yeah, dude, it's when you're sharing the screen with Idris Elba, you're almost competing for him with just the pure charisma and pure ability to act that man has just mastered. Just nonchalantly, he can do whatever. But it hit me particularly, to be a little nitpicky. There are times here when when the lion is attacking, and the girls just don't feel as scared as you think they should be. Like unless these kids were trained to, like in the story of the movie, like these kids were trained to like handle animal attacks from the get-go, which they clearly aren't supposed to be. It just doesn't feel like that. I contrasted it with, for me, one of the standout child performances is War of the Worlds by Steven Spielberg, directed by Steven Spielberg, where I'm sorry, which Fanning?
Ellie?
Dakota Fanning?
No,
is it Ellie Fanning?
I think it's
one of the Fanning sisters.
I think it's Dakota, actually.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say Dakota Fanning. She,
it is.
She's a kid. Yeah, thank you. She's a kid that aliens are attacking and just genociding the human race, and the whole time she is screaming and acting scared, hyperventilating, and I remember even as a kid, I was like, damn, that's. Like, this is a really effective performance. And I know a lot of people were, at least at the time, people were like, oh man, she's so annoying, she's screaming. Yeah, but also like,
it's realistic.
This is the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I go to that performance, and there are a bunch of other performances, but I just think director, oh my gosh, I can't even say that name. Baltasar, that's a cool name, but Baltasar Kornikow. Kornikow, thank you. I think he just didn't push these two actresses to the full of the extent that they could. Whereas, I mean, actually, Idris Elba, on top of being Idris Elba, he also has the advantage of being the one who was supposed to be calm. He's trying to keep his shit together, but at least he has the luxury to do that. Whereas, the kids are supposed to be the ones that are supposed to be all out panicking, but then they find the strength to go on. But in any case, a little nitpicky there. Meanwhile, Charlotte Copley just has this kind of one face, and it oddly works for him in all of his works. It just works for him. Other actors, that would not fly, but I don't know if it's the facial hair. I don't know if it's the fact that there's some subtleties, some very deep subtleties there that I can't quite touch on right now, but I would need visuals to demonstrate. But yeah, man, it's an uphill battle. And it just adds to the mehness of this movie. And yeah, were there even a lot of technical things that were impressive? Like the lion CGI was pretty good.
I thought the lion CGI was serviceable
Yeah.
for the most part. I thought it was good. I really thought the cinematography by Philippe Rousselat.
That
I thought the cinematography. I thought on a technical aspect. Let me say this, and this is gonna sound like a backhanded compliment. I think the cinematography by Rousselat is really good, and coupled it with a handful of over directed scenes by Komakar, I think it kind of worked because the movie has this real flashy. You know what I mean? Like again, this is backhanded compliment, but it kind of, you know what I mean? It kind of is. Balthazar Kormacor is like the, I always say Kirkland signature, so I'm going to even go a notch below. Like the essential everyday Michael Bay in this respect. I've seen enough Kormacor movies to make this. He did Two Guns. He did Everest. He's done a lot of these action movies that can almost be summarized in 2 sentences, where it's flashy, but it also feels workman in a way. In some ways, it's not as distinctive as somebody like Michael Bay, but I did think the cinematography and the South, because this thing was actually shot in South Africa, I did think that loaned an authenticity and at least an attractive visual look to the movie. Even when it got dark, I thought it was pretty impressive.
Also, I think something that I'm not disagreeing. I think something that also worked against this movie. Did it feel a little rushed? Not that I wanted it to go longer because it's 93 minutes. I think that could be fine. But I don't know. The pacing felt fast. Maybe some of the cuts felt fast. It feels like I'm getting nitpicky, and I kind of am. But I don't know. It's a hard balance between do you add more emotional weight or not, or are you just dragging out and you just want to get to the goddamn lion? But I don't know. I particularly that opening scene, that kind of predictable opening scene where it's like, oh, here's the beast itself doing its thing and getting some kills completely silently. May I add, just full on Metal Gear Solid, just not a trace of sound for a lumbering beast. But
it's another thing I noticed. I don't know how much you guys pay attention to Rotten Tomatoes. I don't. I like to see the ratings sometimes, and I like to see some poll quotes, but I don't hawk over Rotten Tomatoes. I just noticed the critics' consensus for Rotten Tomatoes is kind of hilarious. Here, I'm going to read it to you. Want to watch Idris Elba fight a lion? The admirably lean yet ultimately disposable beast is just the movie you're looking for. That's the critical consensus, and it's at a 69%. I think that's hilarious. Even Rotten Tomatoes is like, I don't give a shit. I find that's funny because you know what? Ultimately, and this is where I'd settle on my rating. I'm not going to give my rating yet. We can still talk over a few more points and stuff, but here's where I justify my rating is that the movie does give you what it promises in the trailer. It really does. And it does so in a manner that's at least satisfactory enough that I think most people will walk away feeling like they got ultimately what they wanted, even if what it is merely adequate. It's nothing sublime. There's that, and then the emotional anchor of Idris Elba and the prowess of Idris Elba. The gravity that he does loan this thing. I think pair those two together, you got a movie. You got a solid movie. That's kind of where I stand with this too. If you're paying good money to see Beast, you want to see what's promised in the trailer, and it does give you a couple really good menacing sequences with the lion.
There's that one, like what Dom was saying, like the opening, and there's like you were touching on this, and I didn't jump in. But yeah, the cinematography, like there's some really cool one-shot sequences. I mean, they're edited to look like one shot, but they're done very well. It's what made me like all those tense moments involving the cinematography. I think like were completely due to the cinematography. I give kudos where kudos is due to that.
You see, this is why I don't necessarily shit on like, this is so aggressively mediocre and forgettable. That's worse than being bad. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Just because, the technical team behind this, all the people, the dozens, maybe hundreds of people that go into, maybe not hundreds, but for Beast, but, the dozens and dozens of technical artists that, get experience on movies like this. And, yeah, sure. This no one's going to talk about this movie by the end of this month, or by September, by the end of September. But maybe this will be a very important footnote in someone's technical career that may win an Oscar for a movie you do care about. So in that way, I'm not so aggressive on that on that doctrine. But it's at the end of the day, it does feel like not a cash grab. But it is very by the numbers, if I may use that old song. In it, part of me even wants to say, just go radical with it, take a leap of faith, kill those kids in the first 10 minutes, the first 15 minutes, and the rest of the movie is just Idris Elba just going mad insane. Because he kind of sort of does a little bit in some
that's intriguing. Sequences. That would be dastardly, because that's like the old saying, you don't kill a kid in a movie.
Exactly.
But you know what though? Like, as somebody who, the older I get, the more I love a miserable movie. I love a sad end. I love a negative ending too. Like, then if you were to posit it like that, if you were to deliver it like that, he's fighting to stay alive, but for what? He's divorced, his wife's dead. His wife's dead.
It's
his
revenge.
kids are now dead. He's fighting to stay alive.
You wanted us to watch Vengeance? You wanted us to watch Vengeance? This could have been Vengeance. No, I don't know. But I think the one thing that people were looking forward to, other than just Idris Elba, was that quick scene. And it is a quick fight, as it should be. But the only thing hype about this movie, worth hyping about, is just that one punch of that one shot of Idris Elba punching a lion in the face. And if it had not like completely gone in on that, but just the rival, maybe instead of like a man fights to protect his family, which is, that's an eternal subplot that is kind of timeless, but also kind of overdone. It depends on how you do it. But go all in on like, one man he's lost everything, and it's a pure vendetta against this mother effing lion. And it's extend the scene further. I'm just trying to make this more interesting. Yeah, it's neither here nor there. It's right where it is.
This is the definition of it's a movie, and I saw it. This is like, as Joe said earlier, per a conversation with his friends. We'll see if we'll probably do a wrap up here before intermission. I will say that the story credit, Jamie Primack Sullivan and screenwriter Ryan Engel, they collaborated a few years ago on a Gabrielle Union movie that I don't think many people saw. It was called Breaking In.
Oh my God.
And it was a home invasion. It was a home invasion thriller. And my God, did that thing suck. That thing sucked. Did you see it, Joe?
We reviewed it.
That's right. We did review it. That's right.
We had the Mother's Day weekend trio. We had that Melissa McCarthy movie where she goes back to college, and then some other movie that I couldn't remember. I think it was Woody the Woodpecker.
Oh, that was a rotten ass weekend. Yeah, because Life of the Party.
Life of the Party.
That was the
Breaking In. Woody the Woodpecker. That was it.
Oh God, yeah. That week sucked. That was trash. Because I remember, it was 1.5 stars I gave to Breaking In. It was 1 star to Life of the Party, and it was half for Woody the Woodpecker.
Yeah.
That made me want to like become an engineering major that weekend. Jesus Christ. I forgot we did review that thing. But yeah, like, that was a complete misfire. At least this thing, I think, delivers at least competently.
Oh, yeah.
As forgettable as it is. As forgettable as I think it will ultimately be, it's lone gravity thanks to Idris Elba. And I didn't think of it before, but I completely echo Dom's point about like how it gives a lot of hardworking people a pretty solid technical credit, if nothing else, too. A very solid technical credit and a footnote in their filmography. And the points I said earlier, too, about the emotional dimension of this movie, too, which I do think is competent enough to at least make this thing feel like it has some sort of purpose. All that being said, I do give it 3 out of 4 stars because I think it succeeds on what it sets out to do. And going by the Roger Ebert principle that I try to subscribe to as a writer, that was good enough for me. Although it ain't making any list of mine at the end of the year, bad or good. Joe, then Dom for final thoughts. See if we could squeeze this in by the intermission. I think we'll be able to.
I'm not gonna go on too long because like I even texted the group like right after the day after I saw this movie. Like, I was like, let me sleep on it. Maybe I'll have more to say. And I woke up. I was at work, and I was just typing on my computer. I'm like, no, I got nothing. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna have much to say about the movie. And I really don't. I mean, I hate to say that about any movie where it's like, well, what did you think of it? And it's just like, it was whatever. Like, check it out on a $5 Tuesday, I guess. Like, or wait for it to come to streaming. But yeah, Idris Elba, he does great here. He's Idris Elba. He's always going to do great, in my opinion. The technical stuff, cinematography, I think is outstanding. And at the very least, this movie's production, besides Idris Elba turning away his very own daughter to be his daughter in the movie, went really well compared to the 1981 film Roar. So at least they didn't have that going on in their hands. But all jokes aside, I mean, yeah, it's honestly, maybe for this weekend, if you got nothing else to do, take advantage of the $3 movie day that's going on and go see it. Like, I think it is worth checking out on home video or for the $3 thing. For me, it's 2.5 out of 3 stars.
Out of 4, you mean?
4. I'm sorry.
For a second, I thought when you said Roar, I'm like, oh, is this the Val Kilmer lion movie?
No,
that's The Ghost and the Darkness, which is legendary for having a scene where a tiger, in a dream sequence, unfortunately, but a tiger just full on bodies this dude's wife, just completely bodies her and just mauls her and just no mercy. And then he wakes up, sadly. Cowards. But yeah, dude. Is this movie ultimately beneath Idris Elba? Kinda, but it didn't have to be, right? It's not even, I don't mean that aggressively, but just because ultimately it's here, everyone just kind of collects their paychecks, and I do think that that's some. But at the same time, I believe movies don't exist in a vacuum. It is a business. There is an industry, as we will talk about in our next topic, and it is what it is. 2 out of 4 stars, but that's not our ratings are subjective to each of us. That's not an aggressive 2 out of 4. It certainly will not make my bottom list, nor will it even hit the dishonorable mentions. But it's there.
I'll say too, as a writer, the hardest movies to review, even though I did give this 3 stars, the hardest movies to review are the 2.5 out of 4 star movies.
Yeah.
Those are the hardest movies to review because they're generally very middle of the road, milquetoast. Some of which are like some of which I give a 2.5 as like an ambitious but flawed movie, like Rules Don't Apply, the Warren Beatty movie. That was a fascinating 2.5 out of 4 stars. But a lot of the time it's like, as a critic, my favorite reviews to write are the 4-star reviews, obviously, but a very, very close second are the 1-star reviews. Those are my favorite. When I come to the computer and just bleed, and the clacking doesn't stop for like 20 solid minutes. Either way, it happens with 4-star movies, happens with 1-star movies. Those are my favorite to write. And Beast is like that in the middle ground where it's like, man, I'm glad I don't have a word count. I'm glad I don't have a pompously instated word count for my review because I can be pretty brief. I'm not subscribing to the Ayn Rand writer philosophy with this one. That's for damn sure. But we will be back in a few short minutes, probably about a minute and a half or so. We'll be back to touch on the very dour state of the American box office, which I'm going to argue is going to persist well into September and maybe even beyond into the scary movie season of October. We'll be back in a few short minutes. Keep it locked right here at Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve. It is live and in living color on this Wednesday evening. A slight show. I don't even foresee taking a ton of time on this, but I do think this gives us something to chew on here. And of course, too, I wasn't going to make the late in the game switch on you guys with this topic. Maybe we'll address it next week, but I don't know if you guys have noticed over the last 24 hours, and it seems like we're going to really bury the lead here, but we weren't prepared to discuss this. It's a lot of outlets now, a lot of major outlets that are covering the Dan Schneider shit. Variety, Deadline, Business Insider, a lot. In lieu of Alexa Nicholas from Zoe 101, and now Daniela Monet from Victorious has come out.
We were just 3 years too early, Steve.
We were 3 years too early.
Hey,
we were
no
there
joke.
First.
Maybe tweet out the old video and just be like, "This shit's been happening." I don't know.
I'm gonna do that after the show. Thank you for telling me that.
Maybe review it. I don't know if it's worth, because like we're just speculating, but maybe just add to the like, hey, this has been an ongoing thing.
But we might touch on that. I'm gonna write that down for next week. Because I think this is gonna linger, because I do not remember major news outlets picking this up before.
No.
Like, it's Jeanette McCurdy's memoir effect.
It was a meme for the longest time. This is no joke. This really I'm going to say this next week, or whenever, but like, this is really like the internet's version of Bill Cosby, where all the comedians knew about that shit. And then suddenly it was a surprise to everyone. Meanwhile, the millennial internet folks, we've known about this shit for at least a decade.
Yeah.
And it's now coming home to roost. And now people who are not in that world are shocked. So
IndieWire, Yahoo, Variety, Deadline, now they all got it. And I saw this like 15 minutes before we went live. Business Insider's got probably the winner headline here. Their headline is Dan Schneider's disgusting Nickelodeon empire.
Wow. This will take some extra research, because I want to get all the facts.
That's why I don't want to touch it today.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I don't want to touch it today. It's a very lofty thing. So we're going to bury that lead for next week. And about that, after Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul, we got Saints and Sinners next week. We got the Sinners show next week. I'm excited to chat on that. More on that next week. Anyway, touch on the box office, because the state of the American box office is mentioned at the beginning of the show. I'll repeat myself. The Invitation is number one at the box office, and I'm willing to bet a lot of people haven't even heard of this thing. I didn't see it. I didn't bother. It's another PG-13 horror movie, and I don't know about you guys, but like, I might sit through an interchangeable horror movie in October. I don't have much interest to sit through an interchangeable horror movie in August. I don't really have much interest, especially when I'm golfing on the weekend either. But that came in number one at the box office with $6.8 million. And my God, is that nothing? In the realm of Hollywood accounting, that is baseball numbers. That ain't nothing. Bullet Train, which is in its 4th week of release, Bullet Train's in second place with a little over $5.5 million. Beast is in third with 4.8. Top Gun Maverick, for Christ's sake, is still 4 with 4.7 million. And then rounding out the top 5, it plummeted. And I kind of figured it would. It was going to be a front-loaded one. But last week's number 1 is now number 5 in Dragon Ball Superhero with 4.6 million. I mentioned earlier, too, that 3,000 Years of Longing is going to wind up going down as one of the biggest bombs of the year. That thing didn't even make $3 million this week. And that thing cost an arm and a leg to make, too. You know, and that's another Idris Elba movie, come to think of it, too. That's another Idris Elba movie as an elf or something. I don't know. I'll find out tomorrow when I'm probably the only one in the theater. But yeah, but going off of this, we touched on this last week, I want to say, but to give it more context over here, there is not a lot coming out in this next couple of weeks. Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul, as much as I'd like to see that thing do well, I don't think it's going to take in a ton of money. I don't think it's been promoted very aggressively, and as much as I like Sterling K. Brown, and I know he was on This Is Us, wasn't he?
Yes.
I think he was on that show. I don't think that's enough of a bump for this movie, enough of a butts and seats sort of draw. And Regina Hall's been around for so long, and she's really good, but she's not a real conventional movie star either. So I'd like to see that movie do well. And by do well, I'd say like make like $15 million this weekend, which I don't think it's going to. But that's out this weekend. Next weekend, you have Barbarian, which is getting really good buzz, but that's kind of another like low budget horror movie that I think only nerds like me are really gonna like clamor to see personally.
Well, one of my friends really went like, "Oh, Bill Skarsgård's in it. Maybe I'll check it out." I'm like, "Wow, I thought I would never hear that."
Like
sentence.
That's me. That we're very niche moviegoers though. Like I have to recognize that. Like the Letterboxd crowd, it used to be the Reddit crowd. Now it's the Letterboxd crowd that convinces me like the some minor low key thing is gonna make money. But here, I want to say instead of going through all the stuff that's or lack.
Yep, that's how I feel too, Steve.
That's coming out, like I think that's gonna be. I think Pearl's gonna be a good movie. I don't think it's gonna be a hit. X wasn't. I don't think Pearl's gonna be any different. Let me say this though. You want to hear how dead it is at the movies? I have never seen anything like this outside of COVID, which was a total anomaly. This week, Rogue One's back in theaters. Okay, I don't know if you guys saw that. Rogue One's back in theaters. Next week, Jaws is back in theaters. Vengeance, the BJ Novak movie from last month, that's back in theaters. And let me keep going. September 11th, Pitch Perfect's back in theaters.
What the fuck? Why?
Pitch Perfect is back in theaters. And then
Never
Avatar.
Forget.
Yeah, really. And then Avatar comes out again on September 23rd. And dare I say that the press for the sequel to Avatar that we're finally going to get might actually make this thing kind of a minor hit all over again. Because there's just nothing much else to see. There's a couple one-night events in September, but they're not going to move the needle. Clerks 3 comes out next month, as well as Jeepers Creepers 4. Those are going to make money. Those are going to make good money for relative to the production costs and relative to the 1 to 3 night only screenings. Hell, the Kendrick brothers, the Christian filmmakers, got a movie coming out next month. I'm seeing 1 night only movies all month next month. Their new movie, Life Mark, comes out. Those will do well within the respective confines of what's the expectation for them as a a Fathom event. But I really see the next possible hit. I'm not even going to call it a hit. The next possible hit is Don't Worry, Darling, September 23rd. That's the next possible hit. And following that, you have Bros, which I think is going to do well. I'm still on the fence about seeing it. You guys know what I'm talking about, the first mainstream gay comedy Bros. I'm on the fence about seeing it because I did not like that trailer at all. I didn't laugh once, personally. I'm waiting for the reviews to dictate whether I'm going to see that thing or not. But I think Bros is going to do well. I think Bros is going to be a hit, and here's why. It's one of the only live action comedies we're going to get this year.
Oh, this movie. Okay, I just looked it up on my phone. Yeah, I thought that trailer sucked too.
I thought it was a terrible trailer.
Yeah,
it felt ripped out of like 2011.
Yeah,
I didn't like the look of it. I like to think it's smarter, but I don't know. But moreover, though, we don't get a lot of mainstream comedies anymore. A lot of it has been relegated to Netflix or the podcasting community.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier, I think, to make offensive gags and like riskier, maybe non-PC jokes on podcasts because there's so damn many podcasts and not a lot of them are mainstream enough to attract an enormous following, like a culturally relevant following like Joe Rogan or Pat McAfee. I think that Bros will do fairly well. But again, that's late September, which means you're going to be seeing these. I call them baseball numbers. I call big numbers football numbers. You're going to be seeing these baseball numbers at the box office, I think, for several more weeks, which is really concerning too. And why Hollywood didn't bump up a few movies like Amsterdam to like early September, or like that Ticket to Paradise movie with George Clooney, why they didn't put that out like last weekend, I don't understand. I know Labor Day is kind of like, nobody wants to put a movie out on Labor Day, which I totally get too. But it's looking grim, at least in terms of people getting pulled in the theater. What say you? We'll say Joe first. Joe, what do you have to say?
Man, the schedule lineup for the rest of the year is looking bad. When you go on IMDb and some of the fan-made films that are getting theatrical releases are being mentioned on here.
Oh yeah, they're showing this movie called, I don't know what the hell this thing is. This weekend here out where I'm at in Eastern Iowa, they're showing this random ass movie. It looks like it was made for looks like it was made on a $4,000 budget. It's called Gigi and Nate, about a paraplegic and a monkey. It's called Gigi.
Just
and
the
Nate.
way you aggressively described it.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about. I found out it exists. It is so cheap. The poster on Fandango is a still from the friggin' movie. That's how cheap this thing is. I mean, man, oh man, don't put it past me to watch it, but damn. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, when you start seeing these low budget, like, fan made or just, you know, straight to home video type of movies are getting theatrical releases just because it's like, dude, we got a chance. Like, you know, it's looking bad. Really, man, I mean, like, as much as I am excited for Don't Worry, Darling, I'm in the camp of I don't think that is going to make any money. I don't think, like, Harry Styles fans are going to flock to the theater to go see it. I mean, some of them are. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are. But I don't think it's going to make the numbers that, one, Warner Bros. Needs right now, and two, it's just going to be week after. I mean, maybe after several weeks of just seeing nothing, people will be like, fuck it, I'll go see something like that. Really, I don't think until we get to October, man. Because October you have at least Amsterdam, which has, like, a cast, like, of people that are, like, you know, usually attract movie-going audiences. Christian Bale, not Jennifer Lawrence, I'm sorry, Margot Robbie, people, you know, a ton of people in that movie. You got Black Adam, Halloween Ends, like, you know, you have some big blockbusters. But even then, I mean, like, I'm still just unsure. Like, it's like, I think like Black Adam will make money because it's The Rock, but it's just like with Halloween Ends, you have it coming to Peacock, right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I sent that. You have it coming to Peacock, and I feel like, you know, people like might not flock to, like, that'll have like a great opening weekend, and I think it will just plummet in terms of, like, box office, like where it will be at in like week 2.
I think Halloween Ends will do well. I think Halloween Ends will do well. I do. I think it's going to have a very front-loaded first week.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm looking
as most horror movies do.
I'm looking too far into the future. Let's just talk about. Let me switch over to like this upcoming weekend, because we talked about this last time. Actually my first show ever with you, Steve. We had a similar thing, except there was a movie that kind of came out 4 years ago that kind of helped in, quote, the shot to the arm that the box office needed, and that was It. This year there is no It, and if you go on Steve's YouTube channel where you're watching this right now, actually, you can find 2 of the videos that he talks about: 5 reasons the dismal Labor Day box office means nothing, and then It, the shot to the arm the box office needs. You can see that 4 years ago, this is like a pattern. It always happens. In that video, Steve and I talk about how it's just like, oh, you know, like, it's fine that, like, you know, the box office did bad this weekend because next weekend It comes out. We don't have an It for a whole month. That is, like, this month, the biggest box office hit might be Spider-Man No Way Home. Yes, you were hearing that correct. Spider-Man No Way Home might actually be at the top of the box office. And I'm not talking about, like, $100 million here. I'm talking about, like, just a bunch of nerds that are going to go see this movie again because you got 11 minutes of extra footage of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield hanging out with each other. And that might be enough.
Top Gun Maverick might be number one again.
Dude,
Top Gun Maverick might be.
Top Gun Maverick, Dragon Ball Super, Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, it might attract enough to just make $5 million. $5 million is what a movie might just need this weekend just to be top of the box office. That is insane. Hearing those kind of numbers, damn, I wish FML, Fantasy Movie League, was still around because this would be one hell of a time to be playing, man.
Yeah. I was just gonna say Fantasy Movie League. Yeah. Never forget. Never forget. It was whatever the hell you choose on. Just choose this. Just choose to play the same movie on all the screens, and you have a decent chance of winning. At this point, it's anybody's guess. Dom, what say you about the dour box office?
We've cycled now. Like, this is the pandemic in full effect. On the industry, not just, you know, the seats wearing the masks and all that stuff, which is important. That was more immediate. That was an immediate problem. This is now the after effects that you will feel down the line. If there was ever a Wikipedia page for effects of the COVID 2020, you know, situation,
If I may.
The header under film, this will be part of that. Maybe not, maybe it's too macro, but this is definitely that feeling of it, because things have cycled out. Joe, I see it. This will cycle out soon enough, or we have hit this part of.
Oh shit. Well, okay, oh no. What has happened? Okay. Alright, we're reconnecting right now on Zoom. Um Sorry everybody, but what I was gonna say
is definitely nuts, and it's hard to predict where we will be come next year in terms of whether or not something like this will happen again. There will be movies, there will be blockbusters, there will be indie hits, there will be the typical tent poles of your movie going year. But disruptions like this, it's like an air pocket that just comes out of that you think comes out of nowhere, but physics wise, it started somewhere. And not to say that the movie business of movies is physics, but it's a sweet science in and of itself. And I'm sure some more smart movie business journos will have articulated that. But looking wide angle, wide, not just macro, but the wide lens, it's fascinating, and I can't wait to see the next moment. Not exactly like this, but something like this. Because yeah, man, that's crazy. Joe, you had your finger up.
It's because I was getting some lag on my end, and I wanted you guys to like hold up a second.
Oh,
and Steve, you'll see it in the recording, but all of you guys froze. The screen went to black, and then you guys came back, and I was like, okay, well, that sucks.
The joys of a live web show.
Yeah, the joys of a live web show, indeed.
It's all good.
just like iCarly.
I mean, but to kind of piggyback off your thing when it came to the delays that we see with COVID. I mean, yeah, I know we're a movie review show, but the video game industry saw that throughout this whole year, man. A bunch of delays were happening with games that were supposed to come out in 2020 got released in 2021. Well, the games that were supposed to be developing throughout 2020 and 2021, they have been pushed back to 2023. A ton of games have that. This year, so many free to play games have gone up in player charts, like Destiny and everything, because we're starting to see the effects everywhere of this pandemic now. I always said too, I'm the worst part is when we get probably 2-3 years later, and it's TV shows, movies, video games, maybe music are just going to be at a standstill when it comes to the entertainment industry, because it's just man, we were just trapped for so long, we just couldn't do shit.
We've hit that. We've cycled out, and now we're here. And it may go on for a while. This is it's like the drought that happens. It's like when a drought happens, a prolonged drought. That's actually a lot more immediate than 2 years. But eventually, you just see the shelves kind of getting slowly empty for a while, and then you start to wonder where your favorite snacks are and why everything's limited edition. So. Yeah, man, this is gonna be an ongoing. I might repeat myself because of the lag, but yeah, dude, it is very, very interesting where it's gonna go, and I'm very curious to see where the other movie industry business journos are gonna look at this next, because statistically we are. It honestly, I think I'm predicting another angle that we're gonna see. Prediction for me, we're gonna see more polarization. We're gonna see more polarization of the Marvel or the Disney stuff, which we are seeing that right now. Star Wars, Marvel / Spider-Man, and all that stuff. It's either that or you got indie stuff like Gigi and whatever, the monkey, and it's gonna be this or that. And the weebs, man, this is your time to shine. This is it. You can go for weeks at the top of the box office in this drought. The world is yours. I know you weebs don't watch American cinema like Scarface, but the world is yours. Take it.
I mean, at this point, I'm really curious to see what these re-release movies are gonna do, because at this point, like, where it's a factor. Actually, I don't know if these are exempt. I don't know if these are exempt or not. But this is a weird time for people like me, and I think Joe too. You have AMC Stubs A
Yeah,
list.
I do.
You have AMC Stubs A list. Yeah, this is a weird time for us because it's like we have to go see shit to get our money's worth. Like we have to go, you're a lot of 3 movies a week, and it's about $20 a month. So factor that ticket prices; they vary by region. For me out here, that's like 3 to 4 movies a month, depending on the times I go. Like you have to get your money's worth. Like that's always a thing in my mind, and it's like, what? Like if I can go see Avatar again, I want to rewatch it anyway ahead of the sequel. I haven't seen it since it came out. I'll go and watch it, if for no other reason, also to get my money's worth of whatever subscription service I have. And on that note, we'll end it by saying good luck Movie Pass in this time.
Oh my god!
I wanted to bring that up actually. They open their wait list. They have their they open their wait list. They have their members. They're not launching or rolling out the service. They're waiting right now. They're like, oh, our testing will begin soon. Jeez, I wonder why.
Did they really pull? I have not followed it. I've admittedly not. Did they pull that shit? Are they still in a wait list sort of thing?
You like people who are gonna be like, the beta testers of like the program or software. They've been emailed, contacted. I know. They've been contacted apparently like, hey, yeah, you've been chosen. Please, just await further details. The beta, like, we will start rolling out the beta shortly. And I'm wondering if it's like they saw like the upcoming weekends, like, yeah, not yet.
They took our advice. They watched the show.
This is not beta testing. This is gamma theta omega testing. You had a literal first run of this entire company, of this entire project. You're still doing this shit. Unfreaking believable. What? Joe, you're technically a journalist. So you're excused. But all you other suckers, you should know better.
I'm not even getting in. That says something. I'll quote Joe Pesci in one of my all-time favorite movies, Casino, in regards to the people behind Movie Pass. This guy could fuck up a cup of coffee. One of my all-time favorite lines from one of my all-time favorite movies. They could screw up a 1-car funeral at this point.
Make those muffins with no blueberries.
Yeah, exactly. Equal amount. I made that reference at work again this week. I made that reference. I kid you not, without getting into too much detail. This is just how irrelevant we'll end the show. We had our monthly luncheon at the radio station, and we always order a ton of food. We had cookies. We had chocolate chip cookies, and the one salesman took one cookie, was eating it, and he goes, "Man, there's like hardly any chocolate chips on it." And I said, "Like Robert De Niro in the Tangiers in Casino, put an equal amount of blueberries in every muffin," and nobody laughed.
Do you realize how
nobody laughed?
It's going to take?
Do you realize how long that's going to take? Equal amount of blueberries in every muffin. I thought it was funny. Well, my old co-host at the previous radio station once told me my best traits. She said, "Steve, you're the type of person that makes a reference to a movie, and not in this case because people have seen Casino. People just don't find me funny." She said, "You're the type of person to make a reference to a movie nobody has seen, and then laugh at that reference."
Yeah, man.
I'm like, yeah, because it is funny. But anyway, that's going to be our show today. Ended right on time. That just goes to show you how brief these 2 topics were. Next week, we already got a show, evidently. Honk for Jesus, Save Your Souls, coming to theaters and Peacock. I really hope people check this thing out, even if it's on Peacock, because I saw it at Sundance back in January. I think there's a lot to chew on here. I think you two are going to have a lot of fun seeing this movie as well. I don't think there's going to be much of an audience to see it with this weekend, but I do think it would be a fun audience picture. And so I'll have a fun time laughing by myself when I go see it in theaters this weekend. But we're going to touch on that. We're also going to touch on Dan Schneider next week, too, which will be so riveting.
I don't want to touch on Dan Schneider. I just want to talk about Dan Schneider.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That was bad. That was bad. That was poor phrasing. That was poor phrasing there. But we will talk about Dan Schneider next week, too, in lieu of, again, like I said, I just saw it today before we went live that, like, these mainstream outlets are finally, for Christ's sake, finally picking this up. And again, huge credit has to go to Jeanette McCurdy on that.
Yeah.
Huge credit, because the bravery she has demonstrated over the last couple of years, and then in publishing this memoir with that title too, like, I give all the credit and respect. McCurdy could just go live her life now away from the public eye, and I would not begrudge that woman whatsoever. Like, she did something of incalculable bravery, and I think now something is finally going to come of this. Fingers crossed. We'll touch on that next week, along with Hung for Jesus, Save Your Soul. For Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.